Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we've got a monumental stack of sources in front of us, all detailing one of the most chaotic and, I think, ultimately successful career reboots in recent Hollywood memory. And our mission here is to really get into the anatomy of this massive celebrity comeback. We're looking at a star who hit this incredible financial peak, then had an almost unprecedented public collapse, and is now orchestrating this very careful, very multifaceted return.
It's all about the scale of the crisis. I mean, think about it. You have a celebrity whose net worth peaked close to $900 million.
Unimaginable.
Absolutely. And then to lose a reported $650 million of that and find yourself facing over $100 million in debt, it's not just a speed bump.
It's going right over a financial cliff.
Exactly. So for you, the listener, our mission isn't just to rehash headlines, it's to dissect the actual strategy. We've pinpointed 4 pillars that this whole reinvention rests on. You've got the financial stabilization, the landmark legal win, a crucial commercial lifeline, and then this really calculated shift in his creative work and his personal health. We're going to show you how those all work together.
Okay, so let's start at the top. The absolute peak of that mountain. In the early 2010s, Johnny Depp was, well, arguably the biggest star on the planet.
No question. The sources are pretty clear. In 2012, Guinness World Records recognized him as the highest paid actor. He made $75 million.
In 1 year.
In 1 year. And by 2014, with franchises like Pirates of the Caribbean and Fantastic Beasts just printing money, his net worth was estimated at around $900 million. That's untouchable Hollywood power.
But that's also where the pivot happens. Because that level of wealth brings, well, a certain level of spending.
A truly unprecedented level. By 2016, the whole thing had imploded. His net worth just plummeted, eventually dropping under $300 million. So that's a loss of more than $650 million.
And this is when the lawsuit started, right? He sued his own management firm, TMG.
He did. For $25 million, alleging fraud and negligence.
And they're countersued. That was the real bombshell. That's where all the details came out.
That's exactly right. TMG countersued, and they basically opened the books on his spending for the world to see. They called him a spendthrift of epic proportions.
I remember reading those claims. They sounded like, folklore, not real accounting.
You were just staggering. TMG argued he was spending over $2 million per month.
$2 million a month? What on earth costs that much?
Well, according to them, a lot of things. The detail that always stuck with people was the wine. They said he was spending $30,000 a month on wine.
$30,000.
And that it was being, quote, flown to him around the world. Not to mention private islands, millions on jewelry, security, the list just goes on. Their argument was simple. His spending just outpaced his massive income.
And that's what leads to the $650 million loss. And eventually, over $100 million in debt.
And we have to pause on that because the depth of that hole, that financial crisis, really defines the strategy that was needed to get out of it.
So where does that leave him now financially?
Well, fast forward to today, and he's stabilized. The 9-figure peak is gone, probably forever, but the massive debt is also gone. Our sources list his net worth now at a, quote, relatively modest $150 million.
Modest, right. But it represents a huge achievement. He's back in the black.
He is.
Yeah.
And that stabilization gave him the runway for everything else. Which brings us to pillar number 2, the legal comeback. The 2022 U.S. defamation trial against Amber Heard.
Which was just a global media event. Incredibly high stakes.
Incredibly. And it all stemmed from that 2018 op-ed she published where she called herself a public figure representing domestic abuse.
Even though she didn't name him.
Right. But he argued the implication was clear, that it branded him an abuser and just devastated his career, especially his work on the Pirates franchise.
And the jury largely agreed with him. They awarded him $15 million, though it was capped by law at $10.35 million. She won $2 million on her counterclaim. But the public perception was a huge win for him.
It was. And they eventually settled the appeals. But here's the crucial legal insight for you, the listener, that explains so much. A lot of people ask, why did he win in the U.S. after losing a similar case against a newspaper in the U.K.?
Yeah. What was the difference?
It's all about U.S. law, specifically the actual malice standard.
So explain that. What does proving actual malice actually mean? Is it just proving that what she wrote was false?
Oh, it's so much harder than that. Exponentially harder. Because he's a public figure, his legal team couldn't just prove the statements were false. They had to prove she published them either knowing they were false or with a reckless disregard for the truth.
Oh, wow.
It's a monumental bar to clear. It's designed to protect public discourse and make it incredibly difficult for public figures to win these kinds of cases.
So his team didn't just win a case. They cleared the highest legal hurdle there is for this kind of thing in the U.S.
Precisely.
But, a big legal win doesn't automatically mean the studio start calling again. Warner Bros. Had already dropped him. He needed a commercial lifeline. And this might be the sharpest lesson in the whole comeback.
The Dior Sauvage contract, that was the financial bridge. Dior stood by him through everything.
Okay, but let's push back on that. Was that loyalty? Or was it just a massive, massive gamble on their part? I mean, other major brands were running away.
I think it was a fascinating mix of both. They probably calculated that his fan base was incredibly loyal, and by sticking with him, they were signaling this kind of rebellious brand identity. And that gamble paid off. Hugely.
The new deal is reportedly worth $20 million.
Over 3 years, yeah. Which, according to our sources, makes it the biggest men's fragrance deal in history.
$20 million. Just for perspective, that's more than Robert Pattinson's $12 million deal for Dior Homme and Brad Pitt's $7 million for Chanel No. 5. It's staggering.
And that deal provided stability. It gave him a steady, constant cash flow and kept him in the public eye in a very polished, high-end way. And sales of Sauvage reportedly went up after the verdict.
A direct feedback loop.
Exactly. So that $20 million meant he wasn't desperate anymore. He had the freedom to pivot his creative focus, which is our third pillar, the creative and personal reinvention.
Right. With the bleeding stopped by Dior and the legal fight won, he could focus on being an artist again, not just chasing a paycheck to pay off debt.
And this is where we see the strategic shift toward directing. He's been very clear that's his passion right now. His second film as a director, Maudit, came out in 2024.
It's not a blockbuster. It's a tight biographical drama about the artist Modigliani.
Right, focusing on just 72 hours of his life, it feels like a very deliberate move. It's co-produced by Al Pacino, who's also in it, and it's dedicated to his late friend, Jeff Beck. It's a move to regain credibility as a serious artist.
So it sends a message to the industry. I'm back, but on my own terms.
That's the idea. But he hasn't totally abandoned acting. He's taken a couple of roles that insiders say are designed to, quote, prove he's back as a major artist.
The big one is Ebenezer, A Christmas Carol, where he's playing Scrooge. That's for 2026.
Yeah, and that role requires heavy makeup, serious character work. An insider was quoted saying he understands the assignment, which is industry speak for someone who's showing up to do the work, not just collect a check.
And it is a pretty big check, $10 million, which is his biggest acting fee in years. He's also filming something called Day Drinker with Penelope Cruz.
He is. But beyond the professional side, our sources really detail this necessary personal reboot, a health reboot.
Which is often the part of a comeback we don't see, the personal accountability.
And it's critical. You can't have professional stability without personal stability. The claims are he's undergoing this whole health change-building muscle, polishing his appearance. But the most revealing detail was about his dental health.
Right. You mentioned this was less about vanity and more about, well, necessity.
Precisely. An insider claimed getting new teeth or veneers was an absolute necessity because the deterioration was starting to affect his overall well-being. They specifically mention risks of infection, even heart disease.
Wow. So the polished new look is actually a sign of a much deeper commitment to his own long-term health.
It has to be. That kind of personal structural change is required for the new professional structure to hold up.
And then there's his art, his painting. He had an exhibition in 2025, Let the Light In.
Yeah, and the art seems to be his way of processing everything. It's deeply personal stuff, a lot of it from the early 2000s, reflecting on what he called more innocent times with Vanessa Paradis and their kids.
Like the painting for his daughter, Lily Rose.
A rose is a rose is a rose, exactly. And a self-portrait where his eyes are hidden. He calls painting his refuge from all the noise. And, of course, monetizing it allows him to share a more authentic side of himself.
Okay, but speaking of massive unresolved questions, we have to talk about the pirate in the room, Captain Jack Sparrow.
Yes. The fate of Pirates of the Caribbean 6.
What's the latest on that? Because that feels like the ultimate test of whether Hollywood has truly welcomed him back.
Well, the producer, Jerry Bruckheimer, has publicly said he's developing 2 different scripts for the reboot. One that includes Captain Jack and one that does not.
So, hedging his bets.
It's the classic Hollywood move. Keep all your options open. No official offer has been made, but sources say the door is not entirely closed. They expect production to start in late 2025.
So we'll see. It's the final piece of the puzzle.
It is. And just to round out the personal picture, sources say he's in a very casual relationship with a Russian model, Yulia Vlasova. They met back in 2021. So again, it all points to a life being completely restructured.
So let's just recap this whole journey. From a $900 million peak down through a $650 million loss and a legal firestorm.
To being secured by a $20 million Dior lifeline, winning a massive legal victory, and now launching an artistic reboot with big paychecks and collaborations with legends like Pacino.
So what's the big takeaway here for our listeners?
I think if you're looking at this as a case study in strategic resilience, the key lesson is that sometimes the most important piece isn't the big movie role. It's the long-term lucrative corporate contract. That Dior deal was the foundation.
It gave him a guaranteed income and visibility.
Exactly. It gave him financial stability, which afforded him the time and the freedom to choose his next moves carefully, like directing Modi or taking on Scrooge, instead of just grabbing the first big paycheck that came along to stay afloat. That commercial bridge was everything.
That's a really sharp breakdown. Okay, so here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on. When we talk about this comeback, does a $10 million salary for Ebenezer really signal a return to power, especially when you weigh it against a $650 million loss?
Right.
Or is the real sign of power simply understanding the assignment, proving you can show up, be professional, be healthy, and deliver a great performance? If you're managing a comeback from that deep a hole, what measure of success would you prioritize? We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.